Hey everyone, it's Andrew Marmont here, founder of Concurve. And today I want to talk about a question that was asked in a forum with some business owners. And they asked, one of the guys was doing an email newsletter for the first time, and he said it failed. He sent out one and it was really a challenge. So probably the main thing that we'll talk about is, well, how do you go about defining success, and what's a good starting point if you haven't done email newsletters before? So I think the first thing is to figure out your list. Get your list together. So quite often when you start off with creating an email program or a nurture program, you want to get your contact list sorted. So I suggest, if you haven't done it before, gather all the people that your clients, your community, the people that you've worked with before, and you can either send them all a general email, or what I like to do is maybe break it up into existing customers and prospects if you've got that list. So break them up into two, and then you've got a couple of different audiences. So that's the first thing. The second point that I'd mention to you, if that's sort of if you're in that space as well, is to look at your heading. Your heading is, or your headline is the subject line is the real difference between someone opening it or not. And as we know, we get bombarded with hundreds of emails, and it's no longer good enough to say, well, welcome to my newsletter, or welcome to the such and such newsletter. I think people are kind of beyond that now. Probably a preference there would be to get a bit creative and maybe talk about a particular topic. So it could be using their first name. That's probably the first suggestion. Always, if you can use their first name, you can use first name tokens in MailChimp or whatever email system that you have. And secondly, ideally, you try and hit the value that you're giving straight away in the headline. So, for example, if it was something along the lines, we're a marketing company, so we would typically say something like, first name, do you make these mistakes when sending emails? So you could ask a question. You could also give some value around what you think that they would be interested in. So it might be something like, here's a great starting point. Here's the value that you're going to get. So I think that the headline is something that you're going to tinker with and you're going to test the whole way through. The first email, you're generally looking just to get some response and see who's interested in your email. So again, the headline, it probably comes down the track, but if you're worried about there's a low open rate, then I would suggest that you just make it personalized. That's probably the first tip. In terms of the next part, the third part, I reckon, is around the call to action. And you've got to work out, what do you want out of each and every newsletter. The first one might simply be what I like to do is share some really valuable content that they will appreciate, and also it prepares the people who will follow you, prepares them for what they're going to experience. Now, if you've sent them all, you've subscribed a lot of people and they know who you are, then that's fine. But I still think you should do that as a way of introducing the kind of content that you can share to people. So something along the lines of sharing your favorite, the top three most read blogs, or maybe you've got a video, or maybe you've got a presentation that you've done, and maybe you share that as the first piece of content, your newsletter. So usually with the call to actions, again, just depends on what you need. It could be download this free guide. I always like to give guides or checklists or things like that. It's always really valuable. Or perhaps it's things like read this upcoming piece of content that we have, or register for an event. So again, if you're sending out the first email, just make sure that you've got a good, strong list organized. So you either break that up into customers and prospects, or you just send a more of a general list to get started. Secondly is your heading, your subject line. Just ensure that it's compelling. Ideally, at minimum, you use their first name, so use the first name token, and I guess introduce the series, or name your newsletter something, or ideally you're going to talk about the value that you're going to bring. Maybe it's about solving particular challenges. So, for example, solving challenges in marketing or communications, or whatever you think's a good headline, and have a look at some of the people that send you emails and notice what they do well. And the last one is the call to action. So if you feel like if you want to engage someone to do something, then test the call to action. It could be something simple: download this, read more here, attend, register here for free. There's different ways to do it. But if you are struggling, if you've sent out your first email newsletter and you're thinking it's only got an 11% open rate, check the headline. But also, the most important thing is don't just stop there. Keep going. The most, I guess, the challenge that I see for a lot of business owners is that they do something once when it comes to marketing, and then they just decide that they can't keep going, or it's too hard. You've got to keep trying. You've got to continually do it. You've got to test and see what works, because just emailing someone once isn't enough. You want to establish trust and reliability, and like any communication, it happens if you do that regularly. So good luck. I hope that that helps framing. If you've got some struggles with email newsletters, or you've got a question, then feel free to reach out to us, concurve.com.au, or drop me on LinkedIn. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next week about the same time, Wednesday at 5 o'clock.